Hello and welcome to Ageless Rock. This channel is for those who like megalithic sites but see them from a megalithic perspective because the mainstream version doesn't seem quite right. Today, we are going to check out Leluh Island, which is part of Kosrae Island. Kosrae Island is so tiny that it is hardly visible from space, but its megalithic footprint has left a huge dent in our mainstream history and archaeology. Kosrae Island is one of the 4 states of the Federated States of Micronesia. You can check out my previous videos on Megaliths in Yap and Ponape of Federated States of Micronesia and also Palau and Guam Islands. They all have megalithic sites with no known history. The island of Kosrae has a population size of about 6,600 inhabitants as of 2010 census. I can only assume the population in the past was even lesser. It is surrounded by about 6 or 7 islands and a few islets. It is divided into 4 municipalities. Leluh Island itself has only approximately 1,500 inhabitants. That makes it harder to believe that civilization of this size would need a megalithic site when everyone lives in wooden houses with thatched roof. According to local tradition, megalithic builders started in Kosrae and went on to build bigger ones in Nanmadol. But archaeologists say it was the other way around based on carbon dating. But where it started is less interesting to me compared to why and how it was built. Their population size were too small and they are about 550 kilometers apart. They were happy hut dwellers who believed it was a sacred site. The legendary demigod Isokalakel is said to have come from Katau on the east of Pohnpei, which is believed to be Kosrae because this is the place with equivalent construction material as Pohnpei. Isokalakel started the Namwaki dynasty by defeating and ending the Sodalya dynasty. The origin of Pohnpei, the Sodalya dynasty, and the Namwaki dynasty have mythical origins, so it is very hard for us to determine the authenticity of their origin. For now, mainstream archaeology removes his demigod status and recognizes him as the human founder of Namwaki dynasty. According to archaeologists, the island was first inhabited by the natives approximately 1,000 years ago. The peak of the civilization is between 1250 AD and 1850 AD with a population of about 1500. This archaeological narrative will give rise to a lot of questions as far as megalithic construction is concerned. How can a civilization as primitive as Stone Age upon European landing create megaton stone structures with primitive stone tools? We do not know how it was built or when it was built, despite being so close to modern history. It raises the same questions as megaliths in Pohnpei. How did so few early settlers bring so many basalt columns from an unknown location? This civilization came from nowhere and showed up on the shores of Kosrae and started doing megalithic constructions, but no one knows how it was done. Then they left without a trace. Kosraeans already knew nothing as soon as Europeans arrived. Europeans were told of giants and gods in their legends and myths that they cannot accept. But they brought a religion with Nephilim giants and demigod Jesus and convinced them this is the truth. Based on the timeline given by mainstream archaeologists, the Pohnpeians and Kosraeans were great megalithic builders about the same time. They came in from nowhere in Stone Age style and immediately started piling 5-ton basalt columns from unknown source. As soon as Europeans showed up, they conveniently don't remember anything other than myths and legends that say gods and celestial beings did it. Also, it doesn't make sense that when the Europeans arrived, they already looked like it was abandoned for 1,000 years, when in fact, according to mainstream, it was just built not too long ago when the Europeans first set their eyes on the structure. By all logical thinking, these blocks were better stacked into small houses where they can live inside and never have to worry about hurricanes and cyclones. Why build seawalls on coral reefs when you can build small houses on solid ground? This stone on the ground is an interesting object. It is definitely an odd piece simply because all stones are edgy, as if they were randomly sliced on the side, as what you would expect from a natural basalt column. This one is smooth and shaped like it was soft as clay. Experts say this is a pounding stone. I think they imagined Kosraeans pounding rice or corn for food. But what were they pounding when they didn't seem to plant rice or corn? Interestingly, this stone at this angle looks like an unfinished stone wheel. It is most certain that there is a rock melting technology involved that caused this to look like a structure meant to be circular. Archaeologists will most likely try to link this to rice stone money in Yap Island. How about this piece? Were natives of Kosrae busy pounding grains with this stone? It is definitely too long and shallow to pound anything. The grains will be flying all over the ground. This mysterious stone is probably key to understanding the technology used to build Leluh monument. In fact, the one in Pompeii, which looks very similar as far as smooth surface is concerned, I am pretty sure there are more than 3 rocks with smooth and rounded surface in the entire Pompeii and Kosrae. It is impossible to explain these 3 anomalies, and breaking hearts of grains is definitely not one of them. Leluh site and Nan site are both megalithic sites with prismatic basalt columns. They are smooth on the surface of the basalt columns, but it looks like some are not. Looks like some have vertical striations if you have the columns lying down. This is an anomaly we have to investigate further. I'm not sure how many are like this, but there should be more than one on each site. We always link Leluh megalith and non-Madol megalith as the same, but attention to detail shows they are uniquely different in the amount of coral stones being used. In particular, the tomb in Leluh is described as truncated pyramid. It is estimated that 12,000 corals within zero point 0.8 hectares of coral reef was needed for such construction. It doesn't sound like a typical Micronesian attitude towards nature, where nature is typically sacred and preserved. Traditionally, Koshaeans would bury their kings in truncated pyramids called saru. After anointing the king with coconut oil, bound in mats and colored cordage, he would be interred in the saru. There, he lay for up to 3 months before his body were to be exhumed, cleaned, rebound, and buried the second time in a hole on a nearby reef. I have no idea why they did what they did, but it sounds to me like they knew a knowledge from the unknown ancient builders that this stone structure can beam off a form of energy we are not familiar with. In the Bible, it is said that God breathed life into Adam, whom he just made out of the dust of the ground. So there is some kind of knowledge about energy that we will never grasp with our feeble mind. This pyramid reminds me of soul or life as energy that was beamed into another dimension, and what was left was just material waste of dust to be returned to the ground. Leluh is uniquely different from Pompeii because 180,000 square meters of lagoon was reclaimed using coral. Coral was used extensively for walls, floors,
roads, canals, and sea walls described as 1 kilometer long and 3 meters high surrounding the entire city. This description alone sounds like a mythical land of a lost civilization. So you might wonder who actually built all this. Well, according to mainstream, the magnificent builders were very laid back and very much Stone Age people. They take only what they need from nature and never work for money. There is no concept of wealth for old age retirement. Bartering is the best way to go if you want to see movement of goods and services. No writing is needed because oral tradition is already fantastically accurate. They honestly told Europeans they didn't build any properties with stone. But when the Europeans arrived, Western education slowly but surely convinced them that they were wrong for the last 1000 years. Western education says it was their forefathers who built this ancient megalithic city. Since no one knows how it was built, so let's start all over and figure it out together. This little island was full of legends and myths, and when it comes to megalithic construction, they all have interesting myths and legends. No one was talking about their hardworking ancestors busy transporting and stacking basalt columns. That should be enough to tell us that something is wrong with our present narrative that says Kosraeans built this 700 years ago. According to archaeologists, it is believed that the megalithic city of Leluh was constructed between 14th and 15th century. That means megalithic construction stopped when the Europeans were busy roaming the Pacific Ocean in the 16th century. The megalithic site should be well kept and still used at that time. Instead, it was already found to be in ruin and abandoned for a long time. Inhabitants were Stone Age primitive and still gathering food from the jungle. The only thing they knew was that it is sacred. There are three sites using basalt columns as their primary building blocks. Gunung Padang in Indonesia and Nan Madol in Pohnpei are two other sites just as mysterious as the ruins in Leluh. Well, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this short presentation on an ancient city of basalt on coral called Leluh Ruins. See you in the next video and have a wonderful day. This is Berniong signing out. Kofa Osun.